What is going on, fight fans? So let's talk about the topic at hand, which is do black fighters versus Spanish fighters, or black versus Mexican fighters, or African American versus Mexican fighters or Spanish fighters sell more than an African American fighter versus another African American fighter, or two black fighters, could be Jamaican descent, whatever. Does that sell less than black fighter versus Spanish fighter? The answer is no. There is a false notion going out there, and I'm seeing this from a lot of the Calvin Ford interviews that are recently coming out, where Calvin Ford is being interviewed himself, and he is saying, we've seen look at Floyd Mayweather when he fought Mosley and what those numbers did in comparison to when he fought Canelo. Yeah, but what the problem with this calculation that's being made, or this false comparison, is that you're not comparing apples to apples or oranges to oranges. You're looking at anomalies and you're saying, look at that, right? Floyd versus Oscar De La Hoya. Look at that. That was 2.4 million pay-per-view buys. Sure, that's fine. You're right. That was more than Mosley, but that was Oscar De La Hoya. He was a star. If you want to even bring it down a few notches and look at what was the most sold pay-per-view ever, it was Floyd Mayweather versus Manny Pacquiao. Why? Because of the star power, not because Manny Pacquiao was Spanish. And if we look at the second most sold pay-per-view, it was an Irish person, and it was his pro debut. Popularity trumps nationality. Really, popularity trumps nationality. And then even when you point at the Mosley numbers, sure, De La Hoya and Canelo did more than Mosley. But when I look at the Mosley numbers, and I have all of the numbers here, Mosley versus Floyd Mayweather did $1.4 million. You know what Floyd Mayweather versus Victor Ortiz did? $1.25 million. You know what Floyd Mayweather versus Marquez did? $1.8 million. You know what Floyd versus Robert the Ghost Guerrero did? $1 million on the money. So why aren't those fights with Spanish fighters, Marquez actually even being a marquee name, not doing more than Mosley? Now you could say, oh, it's the timing, and he was more popular at those times than he was more popular with Mosley. But the cool thing about this is it got everything, right? The Marquez fight is before Mosley. So he could have, let's say you want to say he's less popular. Cool. Then he fights Mosley right after the Marquez fight, and he does 1.4 million, right? But he fought Robert the Ghost Guerrero way after he fought Mosley, and that did 1 million. And then after he fought Robert the Ghost Guerrero, he fought Manny Pacquiao, and that did 4.4 million. So what are we talking about? Also, some of the top pay-per-views of all time: Mike Tyson versus Holyfield 2, Mike Tyson versus Roy Jones when they were old already, right? It was like a circus fight, and it did 1.6 million. Right, Mike Tyson versus Lennox Lewis, almost 2 million at 1.97 million pay-per-view buys. Mike Tyson versus Holyfield did 1.99 million. So what are we talking about here? It's a false narrative that they're selling you, because they're trying to create a false situation where Isaac Cruz, through some type of mental gymnastics, is going to be a much better sell than Shakur Stevenson. And you cannot compare Ryan Garcia with Isaac Cruz. Ryan Garcia is another anomaly. He's a social media anomaly. Oscar De La Hoya and Canelo were anomalies. They were superstars. So you can't compare that. You got to compare apples to apples. You know what a Shane Mosley is to a Floyd Mayweather is what a Shakur Stevenson is to a Tank Davis. Robert the Ghost Guerrero to Floyd Mayweather is what an Isaac Cruz is to Tank Davis, probably even less. Possibly even less. But that's how you have to look at it. You can't say, oh, well, Ryan Garcia did 1.2 million with Tank, so I'm going to put Ryan Garcia in the same bucket as I put Isaac Cruz. Look at how much Oscar De La Hoya and Floyd Mayweather made. No, man, you got to look at like how popular is Isaac Cruz really? Because popularity is king. That's why Holyfield versus Mike Tyson was a huge fight. One of the biggest fights at the time and the most watched pay-per-view at the time until Oscar De La Hoya and Floyd Mayweather superseded it. So it was the most watched pay-per-view. Guess what? Two African-American fighters. Most watched pay-per-view for a while until Oscar De La Hoya versus Floyd Mayweather toppled that pay-per-view number. So think about it. What you're saying, it doesn't make any sense. And if you look at Tank, he's in the Mike Tyson boat where we want to watch Tank fight no matter what. But when it's a big fight, we really gonna pay for it. We really gonna watch it. Right? When it's a regular fight, we still gonna pay for it when it's Tank. But when it's a big fight like a Shakur, somebody that matters, that the world kind of understands this person's a threat, we're gonna definitely watch that fight. So this video was just for me to get on here and just start, like, because my proclamation in my last video is that by the numbers, when you look at everything, there's nobody more profitable for Tank than Shakur. That's not to say that Shakur can make anywhere near the amount of money if he fights anybody else. Tank has options to fight anyone he wants and do decent numbers, but he won't make the most numbers if he doesn't fight Shakur Stevenson. That's my argument. So, for example, if he goes the other route and fights Isaac Cruz, let's say he does fight Isaac Cruz, I guarantee you that that fight is going to do somewhere in the ballpark of 300,000 to about 450,000 pay-per-views. It's going to be in the realm of what he did with Frank Martin. I mean, even looking at Tank himself, he already fought Isaac Cruz. He fought Rolly Romero, Hector Garcia. All those people did not do more pay-per-view numbers than Frank Martin. Now, granted, his stock, Tank's stock, has gone up since he beat Ryan Garcia, sure, but we don't have much things to test this on when it comes to Tank specifically. But we do have Floyd Mayweather, which has proven that Shane Mosley outperformed Victor Ortiz, Marquez, and Robert Guerrero. Why? Because the Shane Mosley fight was one of those fights that people wanted to see. And Shane Mosley was popular because he beat Oscar De La Hoya, but he wasn't otherworldly popular. He wasn't like a super, household name to a lot of people just yet, right? He was known, but for example, his fight with Margarito didn't generate that much viewership, right? So in comparison to what Floyd can pull, right? So that is very telling that as long as people want to see the fight and the person has some sort of notoriety, even if it's a little bit, it's still going to be enough to supersede just the baseline, oh, it's a black fighter versus a Spanish fighter or versus a Mexican fighter. So please miss me with all of that stuff. The numbers historically prove that what is being said in terms of, you look at what Floyd did with Mosley. It's like you're muddying the waters to trick a casual fan base to think about it and go, oh yeah, he didn't do more with Mosley than he did with Canelo and Oscar De La Hoya. Yeah, but he also didn't do more with Oscar De La Hoya and Canelo than he did with an Irish man that never fought before, Conor McGregor. And he never did more with Spanish fighters than he did with Manny Pacquiao because of star power. And even if you want to go down to the non-star power stuff, the Mosley versus the Robert Guerreros. Spanish fighter, Victor Ortiz, Spanish fighter, right? It still didn't sell more than a Mosley versus Floyd Mayweather fight. So this fight, in this moment, with Lomachenko completely out the way, and even if Lomachenko was in the picture, Shakur Stevenson versus Tank Davis would actually outsell that fight. Because when you look at free TV numbers, which Loma's numbers are available on the Nielsen viewership ratings. So he's not doing more numbers than Shakur, and that is just the truth. So there's interest there. And I think, in my opinion, that is the biggest fight Tank can make for himself. Does Tank have options? Absolutely. Does he have a better option than Shakur? Absolutely not. Does Shakur have anywhere close to any option that even comes close to Tank? No way at all. They somewhat kind of need each other, almost like Terrence Crawford and Errol Spence in a way, where Errol could do better numbers than Terrence Crawford. Terrence Crawford is doing 150,000 pay-per-views. Errol could do 300,000 pay-per-views, give or take. But you put them together, they're doing 780,000 pay-per-views, right? If Tank wants to get to the 780 and start touching the 1 million, he's gonna have to get into the ring with a Shakur Stevenson. Anybody else, just unfortunately, won't do it. All right, that's just my 2 cents. Just needed to talk about that because that was a thing that people were twisting and coming to my comments like, you're crazy. Spanish fighters versus black fighters, they always generate the most revenue ever. And it's like, yeah, but you have to look at it in context. Of course, Oscar De La Hoya versus Floyd Mayweather is going to do a lot of money, but what about Floyd Mayweather versus Victor Ortiz, right? So we got to put Isaac Cruz where he's at. He's not Oscar De La Hoya or Canelo Alvarez, right? He is a Victor Ortiz or Robert Guerrero. He's in that vein of notoriety, maybe even a little bit less than those guys. So you take it for what it actually is and don't let people muddy the water and let you believe one thing over the other. Shakur is hands down by the numbers. I'm not even going by like bias or anything. It's just by the numbers. He is the most he's the best option for Tank to make the most money. That's it. He's the best option for Tank to make the most money. That's not removing Tank's options. He has other options. They're just not going to come close to Shakur Stevenson. All right, until the next one, guys, let me know what you think down in the comment section below. I want to know your thoughts on this. If you think that this is correct, if this is incorrect, if those numbers don't mean anything, with Tank he is special, is different, or Shakur is not going to correlate, whatever the views from TV. Let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. And of course, as always, we'll see you in the next one.